I mean, to bring this back to like Warren and her DeFi stupidity, right? Like the whole financial system today is like obviously fucked, right? And we're just like hurting these like people like cattle to the slaughter, right? Like we've taken away all of their ability to save. We've like jacked up inflation, basically like forced everybody into like these uber risk on assets, right? And like DeFi is incredible because it like actually offers you an opportunity to do what you used to be able to do with your money, which was like park it in like bonds and earn interest, like maintain stability and like earn interest, right? And this isn't to say that there are no risks in DeFi. Like, of course there are. It's a young industry, right? But like, it has like this incredible potential. And even today, like, you can opt out of the system. Like, you can take your money and with like a little bit of like savvy and know-how, you can park like actual cash in DeFi and earn 14, 15, 16, 20+% interest rates. Like, you don't have to just be like, you know, nihilistic and say, fuck it, I guess I have no other option than to like ape into Tesla calls because like I can't buy bonds and my money's getting inflated away, right? That's like a lifeboat for people. And like these morons or like cynical, like terrible people are trying to like kill that. They're trying to like kill that for people and like make them just like continuous slaves to like the wills of the people that govern us, when they could have this ability to opt out, this ability to do something else. But like without that, they have no choice. They have to do these things, and they're just like they have no sort of sovereignty over their financial life, and it's like really sad.
You're allowed to assess the risk of going to the casino or buying a lottery ticket, but you can't assess your own risk for maybe wearing a mask or, you know, deciding if you want to deposit some money in a stable coin, you know, farm, lend it out.
You had to do it, didn't you, Nick?
I love the way you framed it. It's a perfect way of framing it because like everybody wants to be protected from fraud, but nobody wants an overseer to determine their own risk tolerance for them. Like that's pretty much that's basically it.
Yeah, if I can be a nit, like people are going to object to your mask analogy because like the people will say like, well, you're not killing grandma when you buy a lottery ticket, but you know, you are killing grandma when you don't wear a mask, Nick.
Yeah, I almost left it out.
Yeah, let's use, I mean, even just, like gambling and then accredited investor laws. Like that,
I do think it is generally
like
important in conversations like this to distinguish between choices that are like 100% sort of like self-sovereign versus choices that may suffer from sort of tragedy of the commons problem, if we're going to be like intellectually honest.
Good point. No, that's a good
point. If I may not agree with those points, like that would be an easy attack vector for somebody to kind of like poke a hole in that particular argument.
Fair enough. But like the fact that access to like the highest reward investment opportunities is inaccessible to most people is a joke.
No, it's for your own good. It's a consumer protection.
Yeah, it's so
thank you, Eric. Oh God, thank you so much, because I almost would have made a lot of money.
Yeah, I almost had 100K airdrop, but you protected me. Thank you. Thank you.
Protection.
The
protector showed up.
I know you're an impoverished person who's struggling to save money and get ahead. So we're going to ban you from this like high interest rate product. And instead, we need you to go down to the local 7-Eleven and purchase like a mass millions ticket. And, you know, Elizabeth Warren's home state, where your expected value is approximately negative 60 cents for every dollar that you spend on those tickets. We need to, it's much more important that we like lock in that loss for you. We don't want any volatility on the loss. You know, you just lose every time. And that's good. It's predictable. It's a predictable loss.
There's no risk. There's no volatility. It's a guaranteed
loss. Well, let's also remind you of the narrative that like the reason that you're suffering in this world right now is because rich billionaire fuck-offs, playboys like Elon Musk aren't paying their taxes. And
freeloading.
That's why, they're freeloaders. So that's also part of the problem, is you're living in a world of freeloaders. If only those people would pay their taxes and their dues, and we could turn this ship around. Because if they just gave us their money, it's like, again, that was Elon's tweet right back at Warren, right? It's like, wait, oops, I not only have I paid more taxes than anybody, but you already spent it. Like, where did it go? What did you do with it? Like, that's the funniest part of the response.
It's even stupider too, because like there's this implication in the Warren and Musk exchange that if only Warren could get more money from Musk, then she could dole it out in a way that would solve everybody's problem. Meanwhile, they already showed everybody that they can just create $6 trillion out of thin air. So I don't know. Is that the problem? Is that the problem that we need like 3 billion more from Elon every year when you already show that you just make up money out of thin air? Like, I don't know how anybody like buys this. It's like the ultimate. It's like, I'm trying not to say gaslighting. I'm trying not to say it, but
I want to do this
being
conversation
gaslit.
I want to do this conversation on a YouTube live and have like the chat thread like going crazy on this. Like, what are people going to say to like this conversation? Are we in the majority? Like, do people agree with this, or is it like all the woke?
Bro, the YouTube chat, they're gonna be like, Eric's hair is stupid, and somebody's gonna be like, fuck you, Eric's hair is cool, and then somebody's gonna be like, what's on Nick's wall? Have you seen a YouTube chat?
Armand's jacked.
Can't wait. Let's do it. Let's do it. That reminds me, I'm actually really looking forward to that now. Although I'll probably get distracted, so I'm gonna have to close the chat while we're doing this. So speaking of Musk and like crypto in general, so you guys saw that he wants to accept Doge for, what was it? For merch? Like, what the hell? I don't even remember what I read. But what's the pod here take on Doge?
This is like a 2017 like crypto marketing scheme. Like 2017 was the year of like, oh my God, Overstock.com is accepting payments in Vergecoin. Like, crypto has adoption, right? This idea that like crypto is like a payments thing is like hilarious, right? It's like a 4-year-old meme that like isn't a thing anymore. Like we have stable coins,
right?
Like you just buy Tesla with like USDC or DAI or whatever. You just have stable coins, right? And if you don't have stable coins and you have Doge, well, with one click you can just convert your Doge to stable coins. It's just like stupid, shallow, like pump marketing mechanics, and like for what end?
Is that stupid, lazy, or dishonest of Elon to be like pumping Doge?
It's like neither, because like
none
it's
of
just
it. Like, we're not looking at the
like
true.
Doge is just so inherently like nihilistic, and like you can't even like attach some label to it. It's already it's a dog meme coin from like 2013. Like, it already is just like so firmly in the land of like whatever, nothing matters, that like it's
really
neither
nihilistic.
stupid nor decide. It's just Doge, just like it is. Yeah, you can't like put a label on it. It's just stupid. Everybody knows it's stupid. It's just like a giant joke that everybody's just continuously in on, right? It is just like a joke.
I think that all that may be, and yet I would never dismiss it. I truly would never dismiss
what?
the power.
Dogecoin?
Yeah, I would never.
As a what? As an asset class, or as an investment, or as a payment method?
Time will tell.
Better yet, is Doge going to $1?
No.
Do you even know the Doge price? And
I don't
should
even
you?
know. I just
Shame
said
on
that
you if you know
I
it.
just said that out of anger. It's probably
Shame
like
on
30
you if
cents.
you
Is it
know
30
it.
cents?
I think no, it's like 17 cents.
Look at that.
I
I'm
checked it after.
overestimating Doge.
I checked it. Big Doge bag. No, I checked it
17
after
cents.
the Elon. Look, what I'm trying to say is, I think that the power, like what memes have already proved to us, is that. I mean, what is a meme at the end of the day? Like, it's this viral idea that can transmit more information than words can in an instant. And so, or any level of like a white paper could. Like, Doge doesn't need a white paper. It's simply something, I mean, it has one. It's simply something that is perpetuating society as like a possible way toward wealth, just like all these other coins did. So what I would like to understand, and what I think about, is like, what is Elon's motive, and why is he personally investing so much time and energy with the Doge community and the Doge developers? That's really the more interesting question to me, because what he decides to do with that, whether he pumps it or not, or they accept it as payment at Tesla, my question is just like, what is his deal? Is he so, like, one take is that he's so wealthy and like wants some fun. Like, he wants to know that, like,
Yes,
I think it's just for
that is
fun.
The answer. That is the answer.
Yeah, I think it's just like, whoa, like, one day I'm going to die too, just like everybody else. But like, I could be the person that like made Doge the currency of the world and the internet and like the universe. That's awesome. I also would like to make sure that like we get to Mars. That would be awesome. I think it's literally just another like legendary check in his name. That's what I see it as.
I think it's just purely a game to him. I think he's having fun, and it's like fine. Like if people want to buy Doge, fuck around and have fun. Like that's fine. Like have fun. I get like upset when you get like the the Suzus of the world like making these elaborate theses on how like Doge is a meme and memes are money. Isn't it just kind of the same? It's just like that like I hate, right? And like the meme thing bothers me because like how many memes do you know that like what memes are we still using from 10 years ago? Do you know any? Like the meme thing is weird to me because like part of what a meme is this like short-term thing that the cool kids know before the slow people and they spread it, and then like once it catches on, it's like inherently dumb and like the cool people don't want to use it anymore, which sounds like a terrible basis for like a currency, you know, like once everybody thinks it's cool, it's not cool, and then you move on to the next meme. And you've seen that, like it's just like dog coins themselves became memes.
Right.
Like nobody even thinks Doge is cool anymore. Everybody's like investing in Floki or Samo's that all these coins are I mean Shiba's, they're all dying, and I'm sure they'll cycle back, but like God help everybody who like invested in all these things like 3 months ago. You're just so wrecked. They're just so absolutely wrecked. But lesson learned. I mean, it's like, yeah, all for having fun, all for people fucking around and being trolly and chill, right? But like, yeah, like it's not, the Dogecoin is not like, it's not something to put your life savings in. It's not like, you don't have to like play like 3D underwater chess and like rationalize like why Dogecoin is actually not that different from Bitcoin. It's basically the same thing. Like,
how would I have trouble. Go ahead, Nick. Yours
No, go
better.
ahead.
Well, I just have like this thing that constantly comes up in conversations, and I still don't have like a good, simple Thomas Sowell way of like addressing it. So I'd love your guys' help. Like I get like a lot of like new crypto investors, and I don't know how often you guys deal with this. Like I'll go to like the barbershop and crypto comes up and, oh, you're in crypto. Cool. Yeah, I run a crypto company. Oh man, what should I buy? I'm like, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Oh, too expensive. I'm like, what? No, it's too late. I'm like, what do you mean? You could buy the same amount, whatever you were going to put in Doge or Shiba or shitcoin, you just put that in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I think there's like this brain fart that people have where they still live in a world of like full stock ownership from the 90s, like pre-fractional shares, where they're like, if something is 60,000 USD per like coin, I am late. I can't have that, and I won't have the upside that I could have by buying the shit dog for 0.00005 or for 17 cents. It goes to $1, I 5x, or they're always looking for the next thing. They're like throwing me like mana and this and that. Like, I'm not trying to be specific about which coin, but more the idea. I still don't know how to address that, and why so many people have that like malfunction.
You're talking about two different things there, though. You're talking about the unit bias, which is a real thing, right? Like people are biased psychologically to wanting to own more of a thing, and the idea that you have to own like 100th of a Bitcoin is like awful, right? It's bad enough owning one of them when you could own like 1 million of them, right? So the unit bias is another thing. The other thing is a question of like, are you investing or are you gambling, right? So a lot of people, like when you have this conversation with them, you can like talk to them. It's just like, be like, okay, are you trying to be an investor or are you trying to be like a gambler? And if they say like, I'm trying to be a gambler, then you're like, yeah, all right, Bitcoin's this, you shouldn't buy Bitcoin. I'm gonna gamble. You just buy this shitcoin. But like, at least define like what your objectives are. I think a lot of people talk about this with people. We all like assume like everybody's coming at it from this like the same objective we are and these same time horizons, and it's not. Like most people aren't investing in crypto. They may use the word investing, but they're just really gambling. And if they are gambling and they're aware of it, well, that's totally fine. To each his own, do what you want with your money. And if you are gambling, it is totally illogical to buy Bitcoin over like a 3-month time horizon. Like, why would you buy the slowest thing? Yeah, sure. You want to buy some like meme coin that can go up 10,000x. That's like really fun, because if you're investing like $1 in a lotto ticket, you don't care if you lose the dollar. You just want the chance at making like the 10,000x. It's a very different thing from somebody who's like, I'm considering putting 20% of my entire investment portfolio into this, and I have a 20-year time
Well, let's
horizon.
assume
Totally different.
Let's assume like Nick, if someone was from SAC coming from the hood from like our high school, like just like, yo, Nick, you're in crypto, dog. Like, what do I do? Like, which is a very common thing. Like we get all the time. So how would you approach that? Like, and they're not there to gamble. To Steven's
okay, yeah. The
point.
gambling thing aside, I think like you just ask them two questions. You know, how long are you holding for? 10 years, 6 months, 1 month, and then ask a question. Always ask whenever I'm at the or when I used to go to the horse track, and people would be like, "What should I bet on?" I'm like, "How much money do you want to make?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" Like, "Well, how much do you want to make? Do you want to like 10x your money, or do you want to like double your money?" And then, you know, based upon that, you look at the odds of the horses, and you take risk accordingly, right? So I think you ask those two questions, and then you can kind of like coordinate on a thing, because maybe the right answer for them is, you know, I want to make a lot of money in 2 weeks, and then that's the appropriate risk for them. Yeah, but I don't know if people are entering the market so much with you know, meme coins. I think they're now entering the market with like NFTs and games, which is pretty interesting. And then on the unit price stuff, I think it would be cool if we started, you know, pricing in sats, which, you know, would be interesting, and kind of like cool. Reset everyone's like mental mark for how much.
Sats is just such a dumb word. You know,
yeah, I agree.
I'd be fine with like bits if we did that. I know that already failed.
I think I've heard Peter McCormack say stacking stats too much that it just got
stacking stats makes me want to throw up in my mouth anytime I hear it at this point. It's just so cringe.
I heard it today.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, Nick, I think we're like also deluding ourselves a little bit, thinking everybody's like getting into crypto with NFTs now. That's like not really true by any of the data, right? Like the vast majority of people who buy crypto are still signing up to Coinbase and just buying things that are on Coinbase, you know? Because I think we take for granted how complicated it is to even buy like one NFT still. It requires like quite the navigation of like numerous like technological hurdles and pitfalls, and then you got to pay like, you know, $300 in gas for the privilege at the end of it.
I think the Matrix sold like 100,000 NFTs or something.
But they sold it on what did they deploy on? I forgot the chain. Did they do it on Polygon?
Ooh,
they must have.
Adidas
Palm
tomorrow, guys.
Palm.
What do you guys think about that?
What's Adidas tomorrow?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. It feels a little, one person said rushed, and I tend to agree with that because of the Nike news. So basically you get like 4 pieces of merch or 2 pieces of merch. Like merch is a like cheap word for what Adidas is giving you. They're giving you like their clothing, like, you know, like Adidas originals. And I think what they're doing in the space is really cool. Like this is a collaboration with Punk's Comic and Bored Ape Yacht Club. And so tomorrow, basically, if you hold their POAP or one of those NFTs of those projects, then you get early access to the drop, which they haven't announced the time yet. And then you get the NFT and you get the merch that comes with the NFT. And I think it's like a 0.2 ETH mint price. And I believe there's 30,000 of them. So then they go public sale after that. But I just think that like
0.2
expensive, like compared to
$800. No big deal. $1,000 of gas. No big deal.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. These are so silly now, and like in a year, brands won't be able to give away their NFTs. Like the value goes in the other way. It's like, you know, if a consumer chooses to acknowledge that they want to like remember this experience or acknowledge it, it's up to them to do it, not the other way where they're buying it. And yeah, there's this new 24/7 international marketplace. There's a mark to market nonstop, and there's potentially liquidity for this. Doesn't necessarily mean that it has value, you know? And yeah, I don't know. It just seems so weird to me that we're going and buying brand NFTs.
I mean, it makes complete sense to me, right? Because if you think about like handbags, right? Like, aren't they kind of already NFTs? Isn't that kind of what they are? They're like these like limited editions, or there's like X copies of them, like all sorts of like clothing and like stuff like that. So it does seem like a natural fit. Like when people are collecting your Jordans, like they're kind of NFTs in like a particular way. It's like very analogous. So I understand it, and then like I like applaud brands for doing it. My thing is still like I just think that all NFTs are sort of like still fundamentally mispriced because there's like this incredible demand for them because of how cool they are and the new tech and everything. The supply of them is still like actually really small relative to the demand. And the medium which we deploy them on, like Ethereum, is so kind of like, I hate to use the word broken, but for these purposes, it is sort of broken. And it makes like the price floor of NFTs like artificially high because you can't sell an NFT for $5 on Ethereum. You just can't do it. Like nobody's gonna pay like $180 in gas to mint a $5 NFT. So your NFT has to be like high priced, right? It just has to fit into like the paradigm of like the particular platform right now. So we have the situation where there's like this cool concept. It's great. People are trying to find product market fit, and everybody wants to participate. But also the medium for like executing on it is like economically like not viable. So it's like distorting the market in a way. And I think a lot of NFTs that are going to be sold, over the next year are just going to be sold at like way too high of a price. And it's not that any of this is a scam. It's that like, the market only allows NFTs to basically be these like high ticket items or these like zeros. And like, there's no like $20 NFTs on Ethereum mainnet. It's just not really a thing. But I think over time, like when we do start doing these things on layer twos or like, other blockchains, if that becomes a thing, you start seeing like $20, $50 NFTs become like more commonplace. Like this all starts to like make a lot more sense to me. But it's just like any other form of adoption where you have this like revolutionary new technology that's going to be this huge thing someday and everybody's trying to sort through it. Like we're going to have these like massive bubbles and 99% of stuff will go to zero and everybody will declare it a scam, but like it won't really be, but it will kind of be, but also not really, just depending on like how you look at it. So good for Adidas. I'm not going to buy it, but I could still see why it might even this might end up having like tremendous long-term value because there is probably going to be some provenance attached to it. Like, oh my God, this was like one of the first, people like to take part in those things. Like, oh, this is the first, this is part of like, it's going to have this like archaeological value decades from now. Like, oh, this was the artifact. This was the first time brands like went into this space and started doing this. But like brands in general, NFTs, like, yeah, totally makes sense to me, but a lot of figuring out of stuff still to happen,
Yeah.
Yeah. So Eric, I want to go back to that, like how you would address like to an early entrant into the space, like that is having that sort of like malfunction of thought around wanting to stack units versus just getting in the game as a whole. And what have you been saying to people like that come to you lately? Or what would you say to people listening right now, like that just want to enter the space? Because I do think most people are entering the space right now through NFTs, at least in my own little bubble. Like that's where people seem to want to get involved. And it's still like a high bar of entry because it's pretty complicated and technical. So yeah, what do you tell people?
I mean, you can ask me, but I don't think I've been right. I've said for 6 months that I'm sort of like out of NFTs. Like I was expecting a bloody mess of a bear market in NFTs, and it mostly never came. And I'm still wondering if it will. And I think there's a lot of people who we talk to in our circle who say that like the NFT market exists independently from the crypto market, and like a crypto bear might not coincide with an NFT bear. I don't know. I've been sort of out on them. I mean, I still like play around for funsies, but like I'm not looking at that as like the asset class to invest in for alpha.
So where do you go? Like, what do you tell people? I want to get in the game. What do I do?
I think it's the same thing we've been talking about in amongst our group chat. It's like 2022 probably looks like a completely different pivot. The way that like we've shifted every summer. It went from DeFi summer to NFT summer. Next summer might be an L2 summer, or it might be like a GameFi summer. Probably something entirely different from what has worked over the last 8 months or so.
I think the easiest trade for people who like want to like take part in the ecosystem and what's likely to be really big over the next year or two with like the kind of like minimal amount of risk is to just do the L1 L2 trade. You buy a lot of Ethereum and then you buy some Ethereum killers, quote unquote, just sort of like in proportion to their Ethereum market cap, and you can call it a hedge if you want to, and maybe it is, right? And then you take part in ETH and you take part in Solana and you Polkadot and you get to have all these fun coins, but you're mostly allocated to ETH, which I think is like the best kind of risk reward trade in the space, right? And then I tell people, like, if you want to put like 5-10% of your portfolio and just buy stupid crap because like it's fun, like, yeah, you go for it. But don't take 100% of your portfolio and just buy Cardano. Like that's stupid by any objective measure. It's stupid. But like I get if you want to put like 2 or 3% in there, it's like, yeah, kind of go for it. I can see that narrative. And like as much as we all love ETH, like we can't say with like 100% certainty that that's actually going to win out, right? It is probabilistically the case in my opinion, but like there are compelling cases to own some of these other things. And I think that investing in like application type coins is risky. I think the market still has a long way to go with sorting out like how value accrues to them and the way that like other coins like in the space sort of like kind of take value from them. But it just seems like these layer ones, layer twos, they just like so consistently and simply just like accrue value from like the economic activity that happens on them, and the economic activity on them is like happening undeniably, and they're growing as people come into the space and people want to use things that are cheap and fast, right? In a world where it's going to be still probably a long time before ETH is like cheap and fast for everybody in like a really usable way that's also like really fun. And you can stick in your head in the sand and ignore that, but that's probably the case. Now, if somebody is like, I just want to like put something in for 10 years and go into a coma, then like I still think you're kind of dumb and not just buy Bitcoin and ETH and just like call it a day, because like probabilistically speaking, 10 years from now, that's what I would want to own. But like I could still, even in that scenario, make a case for buying like small amounts of Solana or Avalanche or some of these things. Like, do I think that they're likely to like flip ETH? No, like I don't. But it's not like an unreasonable position to have, and it's not unreasonable to do it as like a bit of a hedge of sorts, because we can't really predict the future, and to think so is obviously like the height of hubris. But I think these other plays are like all really risky, and I think the gains of like buying like a phantom are still like really, really high if the market does what we think it's going to do. Like you're still going to make like huge gains. You're not going to make like 1,000x, but you will make a lot, and you'll at least be trading with some particular thesis that like kind of makes sense. It's not like a complete punt, So that's kind of like,
can I bring up something
middle ground?
That
Sure.
Steven and I, we'd actually talked about it. You guys left the party at Hoffman's house, and Steven and I were talking late night, and we were talking about this notion of like how, like while ETH seems like the leader now, all it takes is like one sort of like game-changing app on a different L1 to really like shake up the stars of the future. Like, I think he was saying, like, imagine if like Star Atlas becomes like a game that like is actually the game that we've all been thinking about. This like actual fun game that has the DeFi features like Axie Infinity, but is actually a cool game. Like maybe that is like what scales adoption to Solana in a way that like changes the future for that protocol forever. And I think that like opportunity or possibility is real. Like we're kind of having all these L1 chains compete against each other for the same shit. DeFi, like all these things look the exact same. Like imagine one that looks different for once, like for a consumer's perspective, and then like they just take the lead. It could easily happen, I think.
Yeah, I think we've lost concept of the fact that like users want to use things, and like in the real world, users use things because they bring them like some particular utility. Like in our world, a lot of us use things because it prints us money, and that's fine in the short run. Like we use things and we get these rewards or we make these huge yields, but that's obviously all not sustainable. Like we can't just inflate all these protocols and layer ones into perpetuity to like attract users. Like ultimately somebody has to build something that somebody just wants to use because it's just really useful. And like gaming, to me, is like the biggest potential, spark, because obviously the number of gamers worldwide is like absolutely massive. They've been shown to be like incredibly sticky, and people will like kind of crawl over broken glass to play a game or use something that they really, really love. And then they're not going to care what chain it's on so long as like it does what they want it to do from like a utility standpoint. I do think we lose sight of that a little bit. Like
gamers literally play these
especially.
games without any blockchain today. Like, gamers play without any blockchain support today, no settlement on a blockchain right now, and they're very happy. So like the fact that it like settles on Solana instead of ETH is not a fucking downside for gamers,
Right.
with like, or AVAX or what have you. They actually don't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, if like kids today could be playing Fortnite and like generating economic value and like making money while doing it, like it would obviously be like insane, like just absolutely insane. I'm sure that'll happen at some point in the future. And obviously, like building Fortnite on a blockchain, like at this point in history, is just not a thing that we can really do right now. And that like is some of the limitation. It's like, yeah, how do you make a game that's really fun that people want to use that also like can work in these particular environments? It's we're a little early still to that for sure, I think. But yeah, I do think that part of Solana is interesting, but I think you could also make the argument that we will be able to build that on layer 2 ETH just as easily. But also, I don't think users will care. I think they'll just like care about the application, and then they're not going to care about where it's built. And eventually, like all this gets abstracted away from people. There's going to be all this stuff running on crypto rails. You're not going to know that you're using crypto rails. Like everybody's going to be building applications that just look like normal applications to the user on the front end, and on the back end, all this stuff's like abstracted away, and they're using crypto, but they don't know it, and they don't care. Much like you don't care what this like Zoom meeting is running on as far as like protocols go. No idea. Can't even name one probably because it doesn't matter to us.
Interesting follow-up question is, let's say that application, that killer application, or several of them come up and we are all using AVAX or Phantom or whatever L1. Is that value accruing to the L1 token or to the application token under those circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the Fat Protocol Thesis, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the Fat Protocol Thesis for sure has been correct so far. The Fat Protocol Thesis is the idea that the majority of the value in these ecosystems accrues to the base layer chain, not to the applications that are built on top of that chain. I also don't think it's a given, though, that will persist into the future. And I don't think anybody knows that for sure. And I have like thought about this a lot, and this is going to be a little bit of a disappointment, but I don't have a I don't know. I'm still thinking. That's
a great answer, dude. It's actually a good answer.
I think as an investor, the safer bet is to invest in protocols for sure. But there will likely be some select apps that do like enormous gains over the next 5 years or so.
I agree.
I think it can't be this easy to do the work.
It's never this easy. Like the solution to the Fat Protocol Thesis dilemma is it's never this easy. I think there's going to be examples where there's an app that just completely dominates.
So even if that app were to dominate, and like you said, Eric, it's like, what is going to drive like a sudden overnight mass level adoption to a new game, regardless of what blockchain it's built on and what application or what, regardless of all of that, at the end of the day, I don't see it as a killer, because I think that word inherently means that there's going to be this like Solana game, like you said, to your example, that all of a sudden kills ETH or allows Solana to flip ETH, and then ETH just kind of falls away into the dust and all other chains fall apart. I really think all that's going to do is like the entrepreneur and the development team that come forward with an idea, determine where to build it, and there's going to be a bunch of winners, and they're all going to be built on different layers. Some of them will be built on ETH layer 2s, L2s, and some of them will be built on Avalanche, or whatever it might be. And all of these over time on a macro level are going to rise up. I really don't think that you can go wrong as an investor in any of those once they're really ripping and taking off. Like for me as a long-term hodler, I always know, I'm like, am I going to say it the way I say it or to say it the meme way? As a hodler, I'm like, as long as I see momentum and I think that this is something that's going to last and there's something that's carrying it, which right now is Ethereum, like that's where I'm putting my dollars. And if Solana all of a sudden has something that does the same, I would probably do the same to participate in that a little bit. But I don't think I would do that thinking like, oh, if I don't get out of ETH, I'm going to lose everything.
Yeah, I think the big macro play here is, where is the future global settlement layer going to be? And I think you're right. Like a single app can attract a lot of users, and a lot of economic activity can happen in a single game and in a single app for sure. But I think in the future, if we look out, like Steven's saying, the user won't know that they're even switching between chains. Like the wallet they have will just work on Solana and Polygon and some other ETH L2, and hopefully there won't be like switching back and forth and sending money as like this piping underneath. And so
hard.
If you
right
look
now,
at
man.
like, yeah, it's tough right now. And I think, if you look at all smart contract activity and maybe break it up by market cap, it will have some kind of power law distribution. And I would think inevitably ETH may grow by 100x in terms of the amount of like activity that has on it. But as a percentage, if you broke that pie into market cap, I would expect it to go down. So, if you kind of take Steven's play and proportionally distribute money, by market cap, I would think you would see, some of those layer twos or the L1s over a long period of time, kind of like disproportionately gain. And that could be ETH in that scenario. ETH could be incredibly successful, like 100,
Right.
1,000, 1,000x. So anyway, I think that's the way it could play out.
Imagine all these non-maxi takes. Like these takes are non-maxi. And now imagine like what you hear on crypto Twitter or other podcasts, like and maybe it's like American politics today, where most people are centrist, but they're not the ones who are screaming on social media. And on crypto Twitter, all you hear about is from maxis. Like, are we in the majority here, or are we like just not? Are we like
purple pilling and non-maxing people left and right? Maybe we're just middle and soft and weak takes. I don't know. Maybe no one cares.
I think these are strong takes, just bathing in the gray, man. We're bathing right in that little gray unknowingness, which is a wonderful thing. And being able to swap.
Silly.
It's so silly.
It's silly. It's silly.
Ridiculous.
It's the equivalent of like, oh, billionaires are taking my. It's like a simple answer that feels good and it just like absolves you of all future thinking. You're just done, right?
It's just tribalism. Like for people that don't know, I'll just explain. It's like, this idea of like maximalism is like what's occurring in the crypto space is the same as what's occurring in everyday life, which is people are building communities and then becoming very ideological about them and then sort of building these tribes and playing offense and defense against one another and throwing mud at each other in crypto Twitter, basically. That's probably not.
But that's not to say that like maximalism is entirely stupid, right? Because like it does serve a purpose. Because if you were to just like if your investment strategy was to just pull up the top 300 coins in coin market cap and just throw darts and put all your money in them. Like if you threw 3 darts and that was like you put all your money in 3 darts in the top 300 coin market cap, it's like a pretty high chance in 10 years you'd have $0, right?
Yeah.
So it does remain true that the vast majority of the crypto space is either like super scammy or just entirely speculative or just like not useful.
Why throw it why throw it at the top 300? Like you could throw 3 darts at the top 10 and be just fine.
You
like,
might have hit EOS last cycle though,
But people are bored with the top 10. Like even the top 10, people are kind of like, like even like saying L1s, L2s, like that's in and of itself like a little bit of a type of maximalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
but there is a purpose to it. It's like if you are a low information person, you benefit from being a maximalist because you're protected from like losing all of your capital to a degree. And like protecting your capital is always the most important thing, right? But that doesn't mean it's the highest expected value thing to do. It's just the best thing to do if you are a low information investor. And you have to realize if you are a low information investor, like you should probably, if you're the lowest of low information investors, you should probably just buy Bitcoin and just go back to your job, right? It's not gonna million X on you or anything, but like the odds that it goes to zero are like extraordinarily low, right? Like even just investing in Ethereum is not without risk. But if you're willing to do some work, and the other thing is like it's the problem is you don't just have to learn, you have to like keep learning. Like the space changes so rapidly. So like I hate when people ask me what coin to buy because sometimes I buy a coin and it's an amazing trade, but then like I sell it like a month later. And then 6 months later, they talk to me. They're like, so like, should I be selling this? I'm like, oh, I sold that like 5 months ago. It's like, why didn't you tell me? It's like, well, I don't, well, I like telling people what to buy because then I'm like obligated to just tell them what to sell. I got to keep track of like 37 people who I told to buy like 100 coins and when I sold them all. It's just, it's stupid. And it's for like almost everybody. Like it makes no sense. It's just know your lane, you know, stick to it. Put the bulk of your shit there, and then if you want to like take a couple flyers, like yeah, go for it. But yeah, don't go all in on stupid crap.
I think the only argument that would be a worthwhile maxi argument is if you could prove that there were like significant network effects, where even if your solution isn't optimal for everyone in the future, that there were like significant network effects, a moat that would prevent anyone from like, you know, really impeding on your market share. And like, I was just thinking that, you know, when it comes to blockchains, like money can be a network effect, right? Like you know, in addition to users, obviously that's the one people think about the most, but it's also developers, it's money, and also potentially validators. I think money is like the one that moves easiestly, right? Like they'll just flow wherever they think the returns are. But, you know, developers are the one that could actually create a big enough moat. And I don't know how hard it is for someone to switch from Solidity to Rust. I'd be actually curious to talk to someone who's done it and see which language they actually prefer. I think users, you know, right now that, you know, Ethereum definitely has some network effects, but when users don't really know which network they're on in the future, I don't know if that applies either. And then validators, like, you know, I mean, I don't even know how many Solana has, like a couple thousand. So I don't know if you really can develop, you know, network effects there. So it's just really hard for me to see how, you know, a maximalist argument, it may be something that you believe and want to see happen, but it doesn't seem like probabilistic that actually plays out, you know?
I don't think it's just, I just think it's funny. I think we're grabbing something from the current sort of like capitalism take on how we build and how we succeed, which is like a competitive environment. And we believe that in this new space, like that we need to play the same game, like that it's a zero-sum game. But I don't think there has to be like one or just a handful of winners. I think that this is ultimately like a win-win across the whole landscape. And there's actually a way that if we can break down some of those like maximalism walls, that I think that a collaborative approach is like what you would imagine that human beings in 2022 would be working toward. Like I do think that there, and by the way, this is speaking as someone who loves capitalism. Like I'm not trying to be like a libtard here about this. Like this is not me saying that like, because it's dangerous, right? Because I think what I'm talking in like utopian ideals, but not really. I'm ultimately saying like there's a way to still be competitive, which is what drives innovation, but land in a place where like you don't need to be tribal about it, and you understand that like we can all win here, which is the ideal way I think for a lot of people.
Isolating so much of the audience with your libtarding.
We got to have an equal like, a counterpart to that, you know, since we sit in the middle for the most part.
I would say you probably don't agree with me, right, on that, Nick?
What that?
Yeah, like that take that it needs to be like, can it be a win-win for the whole landscape?
Totally, everyone can make money.
Winner take all.
Yeah, everyone can make money, and I think we don't. It's hard to visualize now, but like I think that the plumbing and the infrastructure will be such that, you know, everyone wins. Like the two network effects of like two different networks will combine and everyone will win. At least I hope that's the way it happens, because I might have some NFTs that will get stranded somewhere on some random L2 that doesn't have plumbing over here, or there's some game that you invested in that like can't get users because they're playing some other competing game, this other network. That would be a terrible future. So I hope that doesn't happen.
Yes. All right. What should we bring this home on? I think it's a good place to bring it home.
It's a great question.
Wag me.
Yeah, I want to address your libtard comment and my earlier comments, because I think obviously we've presented ourselves as being rather purple, and I think that we are, but like obviously we've been taking a lot of shots at people on the left, or like sort of left ideas, so people might misinterpret that. But I do think it's rational, because I think if you're like a centrist, you're sort of always going to be pulling against one idea or another, right? But you're going to typically be pulling against like ideas that are like in the mainstream or like in power. And like I do think it's like pretty clear to me, at least, that like far right like ideas are not in the mainstream right now. And some people might disagree with that, but like I think it's like self-evident. Like all of the cultural institutions are left. The vast majority of the news institutions are left. Even the ones that aren't left are like they're right, but they're not like ultra far right, right? So the whole like sort of like zeitgeist of everything is like very left right now. So it's like we are going to be sort of reactionary to that to a degree, because I think that is where like all the power is and where like a lot of the consensus is.
Yeah, we're like literally commenting on the mutual narrative we all share right now, the collective narrative we all share.
Yeah, and I know it might sound hypocritical, because we're like, oh, why can't we all just like come together and be purple? And then we're like, these fucking morons. But like, it's not real. It's not.
It's also easy to poke. It's easy to poke at people in power.
Yeah, I mean, we're
like
we're memeing to a degree, obviously, but also like these are the people who are like governing us and like dictating the culture and like dictating policy currently. And I'm sure we would all be sitting here, saying a lot of stuff about, God, I can't even remember like who do we hate back in the day? Like Rick Santorum. I used to like really not like Rick Santorum, I think, but like he's like irrelevant. He's culturally irrelevant.
He
and
can't
like,
be the sacrificial lamb
be,
on CNN anymore.
Yeah, it'd just be a weird thing to be hating on right now, So.
I appreciate that.
No impact in crypto. Also, it's like the lefties are the ones who are in power right now. They're the ones who are fighting on the crypto front. That's just the way it is right now. And, they need to stop being morons, Elizabeth.
Yeah. We maybe in the next podcast too, we should hit on stable coins a little bit and like talk about where the rewards come. Maybe Stephen give us a little guidance.
Yeah, it's a good topic. I know this is going to be like we were like, oh, let's do some like instructional stuff on this podcast, and it just turned into like a non-crypto political rant. But
that was a fair like bring it home point, because it is really important. Like we're obviously like self-aware enough of that, I think, to the most part. All right, I think that's a wrap, boys.
Yeah, that was good.
That was awesome.
I had fun, boys.
All right, that's a wrap. Peace.